This is supposed to be the faithful and discreet slave. They are supposed to be God's channel with mankind. And apparently God allowed his channel to make this particular rule that people were living by and people were taking seriously, and people were afraid. They were afraid that if they did a toast and if they clinked their glasses, they would be invoking blessings from the heavens. And now all of a sudden, poof, it's gone. Hello there, I'm Lloyd Evans. Welcome to the Attic. In this video we need to talk because there's been some new light, there's been a change in understanding, and Jehovah's Witnesses now have a little bit more freedom than they used to have, this time on the subject of toasting. So yes, clinking glasses together in celebration of something, just saying cheers. You would think that would just be a normal thing that people would be allowed to do. And it's not something we generally used to talk about. In fact, I don't think I've ever talked about it on this channel. It's just one of those myriad things that ordinary people kind of take for granted, that Jehovah's Witnesses have found some reason to not be involved in. So without further ado, let's get stuck into this governing body update. It's hosted by none other than Stephen Lett, so take it away, Stephen.
But now let's discuss how we as Christians can make wise decisions using Bible principles rather than relying on a list of rules. Consider this simple illustration. As children, our parents gave us rules to keep us safe. They likely said, "Always hold my hand when crossing the street." Our parents made that rule to protect us from real danger. But as we got older, we no longer needed to hold Mom or Dad's hand. Did the danger go away? No. Instead, we learned to look at the traffic in front of us and cross the road safely. After all, it would seem odd if a healthy 30-year-old man still needed to hold his mother's hand to cross the street. Likewise, mature Christians don't need a rule for every situation. Instead, we look at each situation and consider Bible principles. If no Bible law is directly involved, then we use our Bible-trained conscience to make a good decision.
Well, isn't that interesting? And it's news to me. So apparently it's all about what's in the Bible. If it's in the Bible that you shouldn't do something, then you shouldn't do that thing. If the Bible is silent on a particular issue, such as, I don't know, celebrating birthdays, then it should be okay. And I know some of you who've been raised like me as Jehovah's Witnesses will say the Bible isn't silent on celebrating birthdays, but let's be real for a moment. The fact that the Bible mentions birthdays and negative things happening at those birthdays doesn't mean that birthdays are wrong in and of themselves. That's just false logic. So nowhere does the Bible expressly condemn birthdays. And yet, as of now, 9 million Jehovah's Witnesses aren't allowed to celebrate birthdays, even though nowhere in the Bible does it say that it's wrong to celebrate the date of one's being born. And yet, according to Stephen Lett, that's not how things work. Either the Bible is clear on something or it isn't. And I found it really interesting. By the way, the whole video is like 17 minutes long. I will put a link in the description. You're free to watch the whole thing if you want. As always, I am condensing this to the most interesting parts of what Stephen Lett has said. And this part I found particularly interesting because it shows the infantilizing nature of the organization. So the organization has nurtured and cultivated this model whereby Jehovah's Witnesses do feel like the organization is holding their hand in everything and do feel like they need permission to do the most basic things, irrespective of what the Bible actually says. So this is a whole situation that is entirely of the organization's making, and yet the tone that Stephen Lett is projecting here is almost as if to say, oh, well, it's your fault, you rank and file, for treating us like you need to hold our hands, like we're your parents, like kids crossing the road holding mum or dad's hand. You know, why would you treat us that way? Well, because that's exactly what you've encouraged over decades of your literature.
An example that illustrates the importance of timing is string lights. Many Bethelites here at Warwick enjoy putting white string lights on their balconies as decorations, except during November and December. Why not then? Because in this region of the world, string lights are closely associated with Christmas, a false religious holiday. So our Bethel family avoids even the appearance of participating in that false religious celebration. Another example is toasting or clinking glasses. For years, Jehovah's Witnesses have avoided this practice because it may have had origins in false religion. However, now, in most places, toasting or clinking glasses no longer has any religious association. It is viewed simply as a friendly custom. Therefore, after prayerful consideration, the governing body has concluded that there is no need to make a rule regarding toasting and clinking glasses. Each Christian should use the principles that we have discussed in this update and his own Bible-trained conscience to make a good decision. What does this mean?
It means that you're basically admitting how controlling the organization is, Stephen Lett. That's what you're admitting. Just think about what he's said. The governing body has decided that there is no need for us to make a rule regarding toasting. And yet, what was he just saying moments earlier? Moments earlier, he was saying about how it shouldn't be about rules. It should be about what's actually in the Bible. And now, apparently, it is about rules, and it is about what the governing body decides should or shouldn't be a rule. I mean, if you think about it, even what he's saying about string lights is a rule. You shouldn't have string lights in the months of November and December. That's a rule. It's also a rule that Jehovah's Witnesses aren't allowed to celebrate birthdays, which, as I've said, nowhere condemned in the Bible. There are 2 instances where someone dies at a birthday, and people argue that that means that birthdays are spoken of in a negative way. Dogs are spoken of in a negative way in the Bible. Doesn't mean that Jehovah's Witnesses aren't allowed to own dogs. So when it comes to making rules, absolutely, if you're claiming to be a Bible-based religion, then let's stick to the Bible. But don't give me all this nonsense about Jehovah's Witnesses not being rule-obsessed. It is entirely what they are about. And let's just remind ourselves what they were saying only recently in their publications regarding toasting. This is as recent as 2007. 2007, in a Questions from Readers, the question was, the Bible does not mention toasting, so why do Jehovah's Witnesses avoid sharing in toasts? It's quite a long article, but I need only read the final sentence where it says, toasting today may not be viewed by many as a religious gesture. Second sentence, still, there are valid reasons why Christians do not share in toasting, which has a religious background and even now can be viewed as asking heaven for a blessing, as if seeking aid from a superhuman force. 2007. That was the direction from the faithful slave. That if you raised your glass, if you clinked your glass with somebody, you were asking a superhuman force. You were invoking the blessings from heaven if you were to do that. And now, 18 years later, they're asking us to forget about that. Just put that to one side. Let's just forget that we ever wrote that. And let's just give thanks that the governing body, in their grace and in their wisdom, has given us permission, has given us the freedom to do toasting.
What does this mean? Are we saying that toasting is okay now at all times and in every situation? Of course not. We are simply saying that there is no need to make a rule. Each Christian will need to use Bible principles to make a good decision in each instance. Since there are so many different situations that could arise in the 240 lands where Jehovah's people serve, what a blessing that Jehovah has given us these Bible principles.
But they're not Bible principles, are they? That's the entire point. You were putting them forward as Bible principles as recently as 18 years ago in a Questions from Readers. And now suddenly it's not a Bible principle. Again, just a reminder, folks, I feel like I'm going crazy here. But let's just get some perspective on this. This is supposed to be the faithful and discreet slave. They are supposed to be God's channel with mankind. And apparently God allowed his channel to make this particular rule that people were living by and people were taking seriously, and people were afraid. They were afraid that if they did a toast and if they clinked their glasses, they would be invoking blessings from the heavens. And now all of a sudden, poof, it's gone. This particular thing isn't a rule, but at the same time, many, many things are still very, very much rules. He's not mentioning all of the other things that aren't specifically mentioned in the Bible and yet are rules. He's just zeroing in on this particular issue. By the way, interesting that with all of the things going on right now in the organization, they are battling the fallout from their child abuse policies. They are battling the fallout from shunning. They have so many pressing matters to be dealing with. And apparently this was top of their agenda for one of their meetings. Goodness knows what must go on in these meetings. If this was high on the agenda, we need to have a new understanding. We need to have some new light about toasting because, darn it, I want to be able to start toasting.
First, and most important, we love Jehovah and always want to please him. So we might ask ourselves, would Jehovah be offended by the toast? For example, is it associated with a religious or nationalistic holiday? Or is it a simple expression or gesture promoting friendship or health? Second, we love our brothers and sisters and would not want to needlessly offend them. We respect their feelings and their conscience. And third, because we love Jehovah and people, we are sensitive to how any custom is viewed in our own local culture or community. Well, what have we learned? Jehovah doesn't burden us with endless rules. Instead, He lovingly provides principles in His Word. These help us make wise, thoughtful, and loving decisions regarding symbols and customs.
Jehovah doesn't burden us with endless rules, apparently. That's the message we need to take home here, folks. It's not like they literally have a book, Shepherd the Flock of God, which is just chapter after chapter, pages upon pages of rules. And I can tell you now, I mean, there are the occasional scriptural references, but very often either these scriptural references are taken completely out of context, or there are no scriptural reasons given for a rule at all. And yet this is apparently the priority for them. In their endless list of rules, what they really want to get rid of is this rule about toasting. I mean, good for them. It's great that Jehovah's Witnesses have a tiny little bit more freedom, just like when they got rid of the ridiculous beard rule, just like when they relaxed the dress and grooming requirements. Isn't it interesting how, again, just with these recent changes to the membership of the governing body, we're now seeing change after change after change, update after update, where the religion is shifting and almost like they're trying to become more mainstream. And I actually made a video before they made the changes to beards, before they, you could say, relaxed the rules slightly on shunning. I did anticipate that the organization was going to go through this phase of making a lot of changes, and that's exactly what we're seeing. And I feel like with this particular change, it may seem quite innocuous, it may seem quite innocent and almost irrelevant, like, really? Toasting? Hadn't even been on our radar, quite frankly. It was, again, just one of those many, many things that culturally was frowned upon among Jehovah's Witnesses. But it's almost like they're testing us. It's almost like they are testing the membership to see how this gets received. And it wouldn't surprise me if this particular change gets referenced in the future when they make another big change and when they lift another rule. Because no matter what Stephen Lett may say about this not being a rules-based organization, again, it very much is. Anyone who knows anything about this religion knows that they are obsessed with rules. And I just wonder whether this toasting thing is just the beginning of them relaxing a whole bunch of other rules, and they're trying to test the membership to see whether they can sell this one and see whether they will swallow it. And if they do swallow it, if it does go down well, it wouldn't surprise me if they end up referencing this in future and saying, hey, remember how we realized that we don't need quite so many rules so long as there are no Bible scriptures involved. Well, look, we found all these other things that we can change. So I guess stay tuned would be my message. Stay tuned, because I am sure there are many more changes to come. But those were just my thoughts. I'd be really interested in hearing your comments below. I hope you found this video helpful, and as always, thank you for watching.